Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be covering baiting your hooks, the proper way to actually bait your hooks. So for worms, whether they're dead or alive, you want to use a bait keeper style hook, longer shank, and it's got barbs on the back of the shank to stop your bait slipping off. So you start from the head like so, and you just feed it all the way through the hook until you reach the eye of the hook, and then you expose the barb. The most important thing when you're baiting your hooks is you make sure that your actual barb's exposed, otherwise the fish will eat your bait and get away. So that's worms. Now for prawns, you want to use the same type of hook. So it's a bait keeper with the barbs on the back. You start from the tail, okay, and then you just feed it through. And then when you get to right where the head starts, you want to expose that barb like this. See how the barb's exposed? Now a lot of people take the heads off or peel the prawns or use them whole. You can do it whichever way you prefer, as long as you're using a hook with barbs on the back to actually keep the prawn on. Especially when pickers have a go at the prawn, you shouldn't have any issues. That's prawns done. Now pilchards. There's a few different ways to do these. If you're using a smaller piece and using a smaller octopus style hook, you want to just pin it, expose the barb, and that's pretty much it, right? Now this is only if you're on a wharf or a jetty or a boat and you're just flicking it, you don't need to cast. That way it won't fly off. Now if you're using a slightly bigger piece with a slightly bigger hook, what you can do with the pilchards, okay, is feed it through once, expose the barb, turn it, and come back in again. And just make sure though that at least the tip of the barb is exposed. Okay, very, very important that you always have your barbs exposed. So that's the other way to do pilchard cubes. Now for half pilchards, the way I like to do it is you start from the tail, you feed the hook all the way through so that your leader passes through like this. Then you push the hook back through towards the bottom, expose that barb, and then when you pull the leader, it will sit up straight against the pilchard like this with your barb exposed on this side. Okay, so what you can do as well to make sure it definitely doesn't come off is if you create a loop with your line and go over the pilchard and the top of the hook. It's called a half hitch, and you just pull it tight like so. That makes it almost impossible for this to come off, especially when on the cast. Again, barb's fully exposed. Now for whole pilchards, I like to use gang hooks. So gang hooks are basically a set of 3 hooks that come gang together. You can get them with swivels in between, or you can get them without swivels in between, or just a swivel in the top, or no swivel at all, whatever you prefer. That's more just personal preference. So first hook for the gang hook, I like to go through the head like so. The second hook, I like to go right behind it, making sure barbs are exposed on each hook. And for the final hook, just towards the back like so. Okay, so that's all 3 barbs exposed, and then you tie a half hitch around the tail and the shank of the hook, and you just pull it tight, and there you go. Okay, now for smaller squid, if you're going to use them whole, if you're using a single hook, you pin it at the top of the hood, you pull the hook through the squid so that your leader passes through the squid, okay, and then towards the bottom you want to pin it in the middle, towards the bottom in the middle, expose your hook, make sure your hook's exposed, and then pull your leader again so that it sits nice and flush against the shank of the hook, sits nice and flush against the back, and then your your hooks exposed at the front, and then that's whole squid on a single hook. Now if you're using a larger squid like an arrow, normally you would need to use a 2-hook rig for this sort of thing. So what I like to do for the bottom hook on the 2-hook rig, I would go in the middle of the squid, right in the center, pull that hook through like so, and then towards the bottom, pin it back through the squid like this, pull your leader so it sits flush against the squid. So you've got one hook here, and then your second hook, you just pin it through the top of the hood like this, and if you like, you can go back one more time so that it's fed through twice. Okay, and then that way you've got one hook exposed on the back, one hook exposed on the front, or you can simply just pin it once and have both hooks exposed on the same side. This is the, now you can go through the hood and into the head, but I find the bait presents better this way. So that's whole squid. Now for bait fish, if you're using a whole smaller bait fish like a yellowtail or a body mullet or something like that, if you're using a single hook, if it's a dead bait, you just want to go basically straight in the middle of the fish and pin it straight through the back. That's if it's a single hook dead bait. If you're using 2 hooks and it's a dead bait, you go one through the head like so, like this, and then one in the middle. So that's if you're using 2 hooks on a dead bait. Now if it's live, okay, and you're using 2 hooks, the main difference is for your hook that goes in the middle, you need to make sure it stays in the top third. The spine runs about a third of the way down the fish, and if your hook hits its spine, you're going to paralyze the fish. So you got to make sure you're a little bit closer to the top like this, okay? And also you got to make sure that the line between both hooks isn't too tight so the fish can actually swim, right? Because if your line is too tight, so let me tighten it to give you an example. Okay, so let's say your line's too tight like this, the fish won't be able to actually swim. It won't live long, it'll drown. Okay, so really important you have some slack between both hooks if you're using a 2-hook rig and you're hooking it live. Okay, thanks for watching. Please subscribe if this video helped at all. I'd really appreciate it. It helps the channel out, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.